Oh, gosh. Right, so into the agenda now, members, and starting with agenda item 1, do we have any apologies for this meeting? No, we don't.
We just carry forward the
Same as before, Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
we carry the apologies from the last meeting. Thank you very much. The next agenda item number 2, declarations, any interest? Are there declarations and interest for any members or officers, please? No, thank you. I'm doing this, Martin. Keep your fingers. Honestly. For agenda item 5, appointment of interim head of paid service, Simon McKenna is declared an interest and will leave the chamber for that item, please. Councillor McKenna, would you like to run, please? Thank you. Thank you. Are you leaving, Simon? Yes, please. Thank you. No, I'm just leaving you. Thank you. Lock the door. Thank you. Okay, for agenda item 6, appointment of the interim returning officer, Anthony Harold, has declared an interest and will leave the chamber for that item as well. Anthony, would you like to leave? Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item 3, to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of January 2024. You will find those minutes on pages 5 to 15 of your agenda. Can the minutes be agreed, please? Thank you. Members, my civic mass will be held on Sunday the 25th at the Holy Trinity Church on London Road, commencing at 11 a.m. You're all welcome to join. If you'd like to attend, please contact my secretary to know as soon as possible to ensure the adequate seating is reserved. Thank you. Members, during consideration of this item and the following items, Simon McKenna and Anthony Harold will leave the room, which they've already done. Members, we now turn to the next item of business on this evening's agenda, which is the appointment of an interim head of paid service. A copy of the report can be found on pages 17 to 19 of your agenda. Councillor Simon Tagg, would you please introduce the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, our chief exec will be leaving us. We need an interim, and it isn't the Simon Tagg show. I don't know who said that over there, but we're going to be appointing Simon McKenna as our interim chief exec. And I think he will do is
Can we be quiet, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're looking to appoint, obviously, for this period as set out in the recommendation, and I move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Tagg. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to second the recommendations, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great pleasure in seconding that. I'm sure they'll do an excellent job for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Members, we now move to the debate. Would any members wishing to speak please raise their hands high, please? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Holland was willing to move Councillor Tagg for appointment of interim paid service. I would be happy to second that. No, he would have to resign his seat. I just to say that the group will be supporting the appointment of Simon Mack as interim head of paid service.
Thank you. Councillor Tagg, would you like to sum up, please?
Move the recommendation.
Okay, move the recommendation. They've been moved and seconded, so we now move to the vote on this. All those in favour, please raise your hands high. Brilliant. All those against? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Thank you. Members, we now turn to the next substantive item of business on this evening's agenda, which is the appointment of an interim returning officer and electoral registration officer. A copy of the report can be associated papers can be found on pages 21 to 24 of your agenda. Councillor Simon Tagg, would you please now introduce the report, please?
Happy to move the recommendations. Anthony Harold has experience of running elections in his previous post and is already our deputy returning officer since we appointed him at, I think, our last meeting. As I say, experience of elections is likely to be a police and crime commissioner election. Well, there is going to be on May the 2nd. I think it's important that we do have support around him, and there is a team in our elections office that we can be proud of now. They've run elections for a number of years. It's a funded operation as well, which is different from 2017. And of course, Cabinet are keeping an eye on that to ensure funding is available, which didn't happen in 2017 when the elections were a disaster. So I think it's important. Some people here might remember that, but I think it's actually It's actually a good appointment
Quiet,
for us
please.
in the
Thank
interim
you.
period. And then, of course,
Quiet.
the new chief executive will take that post up as and when they are appointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to second the motion, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I have great pleasure in seconding. I'm sure they'll do an excellent job.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Members, can we move to the... Oh, sorry, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say that we will be supporting the appointment of the monitoring officer in the role, but we would also like to thank the departing, which is deputy returning officer. Of course, as the mayor, you are the returning officer, but to thank the deputy returning officer for their hard and diligent work over the years. Thank you.
Members, we now move to the debate on this item. Can I ask you to indicate by raising your hands if you wish to speak? No. Okay. Councillor Simon Tagg.
Right, to sum up, or move the motion?
Okay. So prepare the vote. Are those in favour? Unanimous, isn't it? Thank you. Motion is carried. Members, we now turn to the item of business on this evening's agenda, which is the town centre regeneration update. A copy of the report can be found on pages 25 to 91 of your agenda. Councillor Simon Tagg, would you please now introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really happy to move this, and it's about the next steps in our town centre regeneration, bringing in partners such as McCarthy Stone, Capital & Centric, Jules Bury, and also the Aspire housing element of the scheme. I think we've had a members briefing on this. Thank you to the, I think it was 31 members attending, plus a couple of officers who were in attendance, either in the room or online. I think questions were asked and answered, and then obviously the video was posted live on, not live, but recorded on our portal. And also any questions could come in on the back of that as well. So I think it's really important that we recognise that this is a year of delivery for our regeneration plans. The new car park, which is the cornerstone of the development on the Rycroft, and without the new car park replacing our old dated Midway, then I don't think the options for the Rycroft would be as bright as they are. Also, particularly, this pushes York Place to the next stage, obviously on the redevelopment and using the existing frame with a Capital & Centric being involved to reduce the carbon emissions and also to reduce the cost of that development. Also plans for Midway as well for when that closes as a car park being repurposed as apartments as well. Again, with Capital & Centric doing an innovative design there, which could be of national significance if that is done. And then also on the Rycroft, talking about McCarthy and Stone taking a part of that site and getting on with the development there through a planning permission, and also Spire Housing doing a residential scheme on there, and then possibly Capital & Centric working on the hotel and some commercial prospects around there. So this makes it more affordable for us. This makes it a plan which will move forward in stages, as we said we always would do, coming back for council decision. We took this through cabinet. We could have taken these two as two separate ones. So we could take a Midway on its own, York Place on its own, or Rycroft. We took them together, which has led to this 2.649 million investment in the town, and that needed a full council decision. That's why we've taken it here. We're bringing it here tonight, and I hope that all members can support it as we move forward. There'll still be questions. There'll still be a lot to rubber stamp and move forward on. Then the next phase. This gets us to planning permissions and also work starting on York Place, which is really important as well to strip that back, and plans coming forward for the rest of our exciting developments. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before I do, just point one thing I think which people might find quite interesting. We're looking at spending £2.649 million on this to take it to planning permission stage, which is what this is all about. Of that 2.649, though, 2,185,678 is Future High Streets Fund, and 136, as you were, 326, 338 is from Aspire. The actual council money is 136,984. It puts it into sort of perspective, I think. But I think it's an excellent project. It takes it to the next stage. Instead of flattening York Place, we're going to remodel it. The Midway car park, I think, is so exciting. I'm really excited by it, should we say. And the rest of it is just moving to the next stage. It's stage. This is the next stage. Happy to support this and second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Members, we now move to the debate. Would any members wish to speak? Please raise their hands. Gosh and heavens. Councillor Gorton first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I speak really as someone who, member who goes to scrutiny and has been fairly sceptical, I think, about these projects. But I think this evening it would be a mistake to deny the council the funding it needs to carry out the regeneration projects listed in the report. I don't think any of us, Mr. Mayor, were elected to preside over the decline of the town centre. We all welcome new jobs, we all welcome new investment, and let's face it, we'll all welcome the new revenue. Now, we could go through the report this evening and highlight aspects of the scheme we don't like or would question, but I honestly think we have to move on. I think people expect the council to honour its commitments, and I think through our scrutiny committees and through the planning committee, we can oversee and monitor the progress of the schemes. And when I look at some of the projects referred to in the report, there's a good deal actually that I would welcome. Some I would question, but there's many that I would welcome. Last year, I supported the redevelopment of York Place, and I see no reason to change my mind. I welcome the flats that are proposed for the Rycroft, and it's good to see that these developments will not be designed solely for students. And I think encouraging people to move back into the town centre should be a key part of any regeneration strategy. And I honestly think that repurposing the Midway offers both a design and engineering challenge. But if we can get it done, it will be a very significant achievement. So for these reasons, Mr. Mayor, I'll support the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I fully agree with Councillor Gorton's comments. This is extremely welcome progress. I would like to thank the administration for the opportunities that they've given through scrutiny and through an all-member briefing offer to make it possible for us to vote with confidence on this tonight, with questions that might have been asked in advance answered, to understand perfectly where we are with the process and why it is now necessary for us to approve as a full council this funding. On the previous meeting's agenda, we were quite critical of the government when it was necessary to be critical, and I would like to thank the government now that an opportunity arisen to talk about some of the things that they are doing for us. Councillor Sweeney has referred to both the Future High Streets Fund and the town deals, which are excellent investments of the national government in our local area. It's a vote of confidence in this authority in our ability to deliver, which we are doing. It is a vote of confidence in our local MPs who lobbied extremely strongly for some of this funding. I'm thinking especially of Aaron Bell and Jonathan Gullis. But I think this is phenomenal stuff, and I look forward to seeing the next steps. I look forward to us being participants in it. I know that elements of our regeneration plan were called in for extra scrutiny by members of the opposition on a previous occasion. So I hope what we have tonight and what we will have going forward continues to be this phenomenal level of engagement with members, allowing us to shape and see the great progress that's being made. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Councillor Brockey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just a question about future commitments for the council in terms of maintenance. I was looking at Appendix C, item 7, noting Capital and Centric's prioritisation of vibrant, landscaped and lush green public spaces. In fact, there's a lot of green on the diagrams. Could we have some clarification about the arrangements for maintaining these areas over time? Because I realise that the buildings and the land are going to be sold to Capital Centric under the present arrangements, but who's actually going to be paying and how much, and what are the implications for the council in terms of maintaining these green spaces, and in terms of our existing workforce and the cost of materials, machinery and maintenance going forward? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Richards.
I agree with the redevelopment of the town centre and kind of look forward to any developments that take place that make it a better place to live. But what I wanted to ask was about the Midway car park. Now, previously, we were told that the Midway car park was past its sell-by date. It was riddled with concrete cancer. And then I was told it was just in the veneers. It therefore needed to be demolished as it was not safe for cars. Now it is suggested, with certain adjustments, it is now fit to live in. How feasible is this? And what report is this contained in? And why have councillors not had sight of these documents? Sorry, it's getting late. Why is it now fit for local people to live in? That was just my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fear.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I welcome this, and I also welcome this item being brought to full council here. As the leader has said, it need not have come here had it been managed in a certain other way, but I think the fact we are here debating this shows the administration's commitment to being open and transparent about these things. The nice thing I think about these proposals is that they are thoughtful proposals. We can all be nostalgic about the town centres we knew in our youth and such like, but those days have gone, and we need to build to the future and to try and predict future trends with town centres. And like Councillor Gorton, I welcome this for bringing people into the town. Having lived abroad in Seville for a year, where many more people lived in the centre than live in the central British towns, I thought that brought a special and more vibrant feel, and I'm hoping that this will happen here. Capital and Centric are interesting people. I pass some of their major works when I go to work in the morning on the railway at Stockport, and it's flying up. So I have great hope that they will deliver, and they will deliver promptly for us. And that, I think, is a really important thing. And I think also it is all slightly unusual, but the way they treat old buildings, stripping them back to their skeleton, so to speak, does seem to be a good way of using these buildings. And actually, if you like environmental things, I'm told it's also rather good for that. So I thoroughly welcome the proposals that are in front of us.
Thank you, Councillor Fear. Councillor Fox-Hewitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've asked on 2 occasions now for the feasibility studies and the consultation reports to be shared with members, most recently at the all members briefing. I'm just checking now in case I've missed it. Have they been shared yet, Simon? Okay, when was that? Is that all, Matt?
Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did have some concerns over appropriate scrutiny regarding this report and did consider a call-in. However, the all members teams briefing answered many of those concerns, and it's something we would like to see a lot more, because that all members teams meeting was the decisive for us in saying that it no longer met our threshold for a call-in. I'm afraid I couldn't attend as I was working. Given the concerns raised by our members, we are willing to support release of the first part of this funding. I personally still have some concerns over the viability of the type of the residential units, but I'm quite willing to be proven wrong. Certainly what Capital and Centric are planning on doing has a very aesthetic appeal. I think it will be some really quite nice developments within the town centre. As I said, I am concerned about the viability of those units. We're a very different place compared to Stockport. But we will give our conditional support on this and look forward to seeing more of those all members briefings via Teams.
Speakers, please. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I welcome the development in the town centre, and I'm a bit concerned about the quickness and that we get on with it, because if we don't give permission, the money will be taken back. You know, we'll have to give the money back. I don't know. I think that's a fact. But really, I'm expected to give permission to spend millions of ratepayers' money on something that we were told and read about, but with no real substance. When we given the name of developer, Capital Centre, who are they? What's their track record? Their proposals on created living in your place in Midway. Should we not have only right and transparent for all councillors to have been given the chance to meet Capital and Centric? Go on a site visit to their developments in the Northwest, and for them to explain their vision for community living in our town centre. wouldn't it have been the right thing to do so councillors could vote with some reality and understanding on spending ratepayers' money on something that will change our town centre? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Tagg.
Okay, thank you for those comments. I'm with Councillor Gorton right at the beginning. I think are really good comments from him. Just quickly, just to answer, I think that, talking about Councillor Brockie and who's going to pay for the green maintenance, I think we have a planning process, don't we? Have obligations within planning process. That's what this is all about, getting to the next stage of planning applications. I think I've been on the council long enough to know that £2 million was spent on the Midway dealing with concrete issues. I think the idea that it can remain as a car park is for the birds. But I think in today's modern world, particularly with electric cars coming along, and a lot of car parks are going to have that trouble. That's why this one and what Kaplan Centre are looking to do with it could be so groundbreaking. I think we can supply for Councillor Richards, sorry again. Keep looking at him. Councillor Richards, that we do supply the information we've got on that. And there's plenty of cabinet reports that I've seen come to this council on the Midway over the years, and they are still on the website. So I'm sure we can dig them out for you. But I think generally supporting, that's good. And I think we are moving forward in stages. Other questions will come forward at different stages. But I think what's really key with this is, particularly on Rycroft, we bring a whole raft of people into it. We bring in McCarthy and Stone, we're bringing Aspire into it as well as Kaplan Centre. And all the eggs aren't in one basket with Kaplan Centre. And just to respond to Councillor Williams, there was a document that was attached to the Cabinet that was also obviously indicated that it was on the Cabinet agenda at the members' briefing, which outlined obviously Kaplan Centric's history, what they're doing in other towns, etc., and also links to the website and all their different developments that they're doing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. The recommendations have been moved and seconded, so we now move to the vote in this, please. All those in favour, please raise your hands high, please. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Thank you. Members, we now turn to the next substantive item of business on this evening's agenda, which is the revenue and capital budget strategies from 2024 to 2025. A copy of the report and associated papers can be found on pages 93 to 195 of your agenda. Councillor Simon Tagg, will you please now introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief, but I won't be that brief. But also, I know there's a press release going out with my name on it, so we can certainly ensure we get the message out about this brilliant budget that I'm proposing today, along with my colleagues. And I'm pleased to move those budget recommendations A to O as set out in Appendix A, which include another low council tax rise of 1.99%. Which is just 8p a week extra for the vast residents of the borough. And yet again, we're honouring our pledge as a Conservative group made at the last election to keep council tax below 2%, while other bills are rising, Mr. Mayor. We've done this while presenting a budget that is prudent and balanced, including the continual development of services to the public and moving into a delivery mode, as we just discussed, for the regeneration of our town centre, with the help of the once in a generation or lifetime, whatever you want to call it, multi-million-pound investment by the government through the Future High Streets Fund and town deals. The council budget, like everybody else and household budgets, is being affected by inflation. And of course, the impact on that has been softened because we put money aside in a reserve to do that through the cost of living reserve. And now we've got, as part of a tried and tested budget setting process, we've had our efficiency board that's been convened in the summer, which is cabinet members and service leads, to make the initial the savings needed, which are 2.692 million. I'm pleased to say we have bridged that gap again this year. And this is achieved without affecting frontline services. Our streets, parks maintenance, street scene are again protected and have been enhanced with new vehicles and machinery over the last year. And the council's waste and recycling system, I can say the same. And we continue to work to improve and roll out our neighbourhood approach, as Councillor Hutchinson sent out an email to members outlining that. And we're also increasing our recycling rates. There's a protection for the planning service, so it can continue to perform well as we go to this next stage of our local plan. And our One Council programme continues to deliver savings and ensure we have the right people in the right places to deliver those services, and also takes into account the jump to digital. All these savings are detailed in Appendix 4, and you can have a look at those, and it's effective efficiencies and good housekeeping. I'd like to thank the officers, really need to say that to Mr. Mayor, thank the officers and the team financial team for the work on this, and also cabinet members who've been involved, and also FAPs that have looked at this on 2 occasions and not put forward any amendments, but have put forward some good views which have been incorporated along the way. The budget for us tonight includes provision to boost the council reserves again to 4.892 million, further building on the sound base for this budget. There is necessary to remain, obviously because the local economy is, not the local economy, the cost of living and also the economy and the national finances are still in a state. We need to ensure we have reserves in place to account for anything, a return of the pandemic, for example. That's what we've got to think about when we think about our reserves. And we also taking into account the recommendations of the external audit, which asked us to build up our reserves, and we're doing that again this year. And this is despite spending almost £1 million on the legal action to Walleys Quarry, which we talked about earlier. Again, this year, we have a budget and borrowing support fund of £350,000 to insulate against rising costs. And we're setting that £300,000 aside to support any future action the council may take related to Walleys Quarry, which, of course, as we've already debated earlier and argued the toss over, we will be subject to any agreement of full council with what happens at that time to come back to full council if we need any more reserves to fight any legal action in Walleys Quarries against Walleys Quarry. Mr. Mayor, the main thrust of this budget is to invest in our aspirations for the borough, and that includes another £250,000 in the budget Borough Growth Fund, as set out in 2.71. It's in its 5th year, and it's made a big difference to the council in the way it's run, improving services and also improving our town centre and allowing us to pursue our environmental gains. And we're doing that again this year as we're putting a focus on matters to our communities, as we've seen in the public consultation, which is attached to this budget. It backs what we are doing here, and we're protecting frontline services such as street cleaning and park maintenance throughout. And we're actually putting money aside in this Borough Growth Fund to help us to reach our target of 2030 net zero, which Councillor Hutchins is working on. We're already there with 50%, so we're well on our way. And there'll be more tree planting initiatives on our over 60 council-owned sites that this administration has saved as carbon capture areas in the urban area. And I'm pleased to announce tonight, Mr. Mayor, as part of the budget, we're rolling out a number of new rural carbon capture areas, protecting council-owned green spaces in places like Audley, Maidling, Logheads. And we'll be asking local members in those areas to take for their views on sites for tree planting in those areas in the future over the next couple of years. And we'll continue to fund our digital innovation, which is moving our One Council programme forward, and our technology strategy, which was adopted by Cabinet, will lead the way on that to improve services and also skill up our staff to meet the new opportunities. Lastly, you'll be pleased to know, I can announce that thanks to some extra money from the government, we're setting up a small repairs fund to enable a programme of council-owned pathway structures and playgrounds to be repaired across the borough. This will be ring-fenced, the £38,000, for some of those jobs which are always at the end of a list and never get done. There are some in Audley, there are some in Kidsgrove, there are some in Vine Valley. But of course, people will need to vote for this budget tonight to be able to take credit for any of those improvements. Finally, Mr. Mayor, the budget also proposes a capital programme totaling £41 million, with over 11.5 million of that coming from external finance and 2.1 million coming from borrowing by this council to enable us to press forward with that regeneration, as we discussed earlier. And we can deliver that capital programme over the next few years, as we say in the agenda, and it supports all of our regeneration aspirations for the borough. And we're moving towards that delivery mode and regeneration as the Rycroft starts. The new car park is being built, as we've said, and we await the rest of those sites coming forward. Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased to recommend this budget for the revenue and capital, and it continues to take the borough forward, honours our commitments of a low council tax, and starts delivering that regeneration which we all want, and all members talked about that earlier. So ask members to support this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tuck. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to second the motion, please?
Yeah, I'd love to, Mr. Mayor. If I can say a few words, I'll speak as quickly as I can as well. First of all, I'd like to thank the officers for all the hard work they've done. The team there are absolutely first rate to produce these figures. This meeting is the culmination of the budget process, which started before the 23-24 budget was set. Despite the challenges relating to the cost of living crisis, the council has made good progress against achieving the council plan's objectives. Due to robust budget monitoring, it is forecast the council will achieve a balanced outturn for 23-24. The 24-25 £2.692 million budget gap has been filled via a vigorous efficiency board process, including challenge sessions for each of the portfolios. Managers agreed these at being both feasible and sustainable. The One Council programme was launched in February 21. in order to meet the changing needs of our residents by increasing our ability to provide flexible, efficient and customer-driven services. Over £1 million of recurring savings have already successfully been achieved from the programme. The programme will continue to drive efficiencies through continuous reviews and developments of the council services during 24-25. A significantly below inflation council tax increase of 1.99% per Band D property is being proposed. This amounts to 10 pence per week or less for 95% of households within the borough. This has been achieved with no cuts to services. The established Borough Growth Fund continues to provide investment into our corporate priorities. 100,000 will be used to continue the transformation of public access to council services. 100,000 will boost environmental sustainability of the borough, and 50,000 will continue to boost football in the town centre. A small repairs fund of £38,000 is going to be set up to be used to repair council-owned footpath structure and playgrounds. Like the leader says, these are little jobs that never actually get done, and I think they're all over the borough. And I think they are something that residents can see and will welcome this. I think it's an excellent idea. It is pleased to note the Council General Fund Reserve will increase from 1.91 million to 2.257 million. This will ensure the Council's continued financial sustainability and increasing financial resilience further. The public consultation identified that the regeneration of the towns, culture and the arts, refuse collection and parks, playgrounds and open spaces are the services that residents value the most. All of these services have been protected or enhanced via this budget. We are continuing to work to regenerate our town centres with projects involving the Future High Street Fund and town deals for Newcastle and Kisgrove gathering pace. This budget helps to make our area a better place for our residents, which is why we all come into local politics. I believe this is a robust, affordable and balanced budget for 24-25, and I'm very happy and indeed proud to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Members, we now move to the debate on this item. Can I ask you to indicate by raising your hand if you wish to speak? Councillor Stubbs first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To start off with the negative, what a complete and utter disgrace that we're passing the budget, probably the most important report that will come to this council all year, and we're passing it at 2 minutes past 10. 2 minutes. Well, no. You may well say that, but why are we having dual meetings on the night that we set the budget? What an absolute joke. Mr. Mayor, tonight we are presented with a Tory administration budget which considers nothing as to the impact on our community. As we dissect the numbers, peel back the layers of the elaborate building policy and scrutinise the choices made by those in power, we are unable to find anything but financial negligence, broken promises and a period of economic mismanagement. Now, tonight, the administration, with their polished rhetoric and grandiose promises, will trumpet the use of additional funds such as the Future High Streets Fund and the Newcastle and Kisgrove town deals. Though I'm sure the people in Kisgrove are delighted that millions that should have been spent in Kisgrove is now being spent in a different area, with the vain hope that they may, no guarantee, get a few jobs. But the administration have constantly failed to support the most vulnerable amongst us all. Our elderly, our disabled, our struggling families have all borne the brunt of this government's negligence. Let us not mince word. The safety nets that are in place have gaping holes, and this budget does nothing to repair them. And what about our hardworking families? Families right here in Newcastle who can't afford 5 more years of a Conservative government, let alone 2 more years of a Conservative council. Families within the borough have seen their costs rise £302 million annually since the last election. The Consumer Price Index, the cold, impartial measure, tells us a grim story for Newcastle. Average weekly spending has climbed 21% since 2019-20, burdening Newcastle households with an extra £110 costs, which is £5,500 a year, a weight that presses down on every family in Newcastle. Yet there is nothing in this budget to help them. Will any Conservative member stand up this evening and defend the 29.6% increase that Newcastle's Tories have heaped on the average Band D property since they took control of the council? In monetary terms, over £500 a year has been added to residents' bills. What do residents get for it? Reduced services and pointed to a website for any answers that they require. Mr. Mayor, it's not just about numbers, it's about lives. It's about the elderly woman who skips meals to pay for her medication. It's about the disabled veteran who waits months for essential care. It's about the single mother who's working 2 jobs, her tired eyes reflecting the struggle to keep her children fed and warm in Newcastle. Newcastle-under-Lyme is steeped in history, but it is not immune to economic tides that sweep across our nation.
1 minute, Councillor Stubbs.
Okay. Councillors, let me address the elephant in the room. This administration has made budgetary decisions this evening that has left us parched in the desert of remedies. Their promises to build are echo and devoid of substance. Where are their lifelines for the residents of Newcastle? Where are the safety nets for our vulnerable citizens? We are building a field of dreams. We deserve leaders who prioritise people over politics, compassion over calculations. And we need a council that not only invests in our families, but in things like homelessness. And that must steer our local economy towards stability, which this budget does not do. So, my fellow councillors, as we approach the next financial year, remember this. This administration had a chance to help and they've squandered it. For that reason, I will be unable to support tonight's budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Holland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I want to say, first of all, that I was disappointed, genuinely disappointed, that Councillor Stubbs was not in attendance at the most recent meeting of the Finance Scrutiny Committee, at which we considered the budget. And I say that because he is one of the most thorough and investigative members of that committee, which I chair. And I am genuinely disappointed to hear him coming here tonight. In part, Mr. Mayor, because on the evening of that meeting, he tweeted what a lovely evening he was having with members of the Stafford constituency Labour Party. Mr. Mayor, tonight, Councillor Stubbs's contribution to this debate is obscene and he should be ashamed. He has the gall to come here and to say that it is inadequately scrutinised when he had the perfect opportunity to make suggestions and to plead his case, which he squandered. Like his members tonight, if they vote against this budget, will be squandering opportunities to make a better life for our residents. Now, I will have to leave it to other members to make the case for the budget, because I will have spent my opportunity to contribute to this debate laying into Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Stubbs is no stranger to putting self before public service. He tweets it when he is doing it. His own political interests come first, and the interests of the residents of this borough, who he derides and scorns to represent, come second when Councillor Stubbs is responsible, Mr. Mayor, as we have said, and they don't like to hear it, for the closure and the cuts to services in this council. The current administration is investing in the council. Mr. Mayor, he continues to barrack me, but I will continue because I've got a few minutes left to give, and I will say this. Tonight, at a meeting prior to this one, members opposite wish to engage in a bidding war about how much we should be allocating to reserves earmarked for the fight against landfill odour at Walleys Quarry. That is a bidding war that we can only engage in thanks to the careful financial administrative stewardship of this council by Councillor Tagg and by the Cabinet, right? We would not have that money in our reserves to allocate to anything if the Labour Party that presided over the long decline of this borough over many years, if the Labour Party was still running the show. So I am proud of this budget. I will be voting for the budget. I challenge members opposite to vote against it, because if they vote against it, they will be voting against investment. They'll be voting against regeneration. They'll be voting against opportunity. And they'll be voting with Councillor Stubbs, who does not deign to come to scrutiny when it most matters, but dares to come here tonight and lecture us about the choices that we collectively have shaped. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Williams.
Point of order. It's the case where there's personal attacks. It's that, you know, actually, Mr. Mayor, personal attacks.
Councillor Parker.
On.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, like my colleague, very surprised to hear what Councillor Stubbs had to say. I read the report. I thought it was very good. I thought it was extremely gratifying to see that once again that this council is forecasting a balanced culture on its revenue bullet. I echo the leader and the deputy and give full plaudits to the officers and the cabinet for actually bringing this to us. Yes, we are in a hard times, and I think that a lot of work that's been put into this shows the prudence that this administration achieves year on year once again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Northcott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Crikey, it's getting late, isn't it? What we've witnessed recently, the volatility of economies and the effect of obviously Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. But I'm really heartened by the hard work from our leader, the cabinet, scrutiny, but especially the officers for keeping the council's finances on track. This is very difficult in this set of times, but importantly, it's kept to its manifesto pledge to keep the council tax increase, if it has to be raised, to below 2%, especially when we hear today that the inflation rate is at 4%. If you're going to have a strong workforce, if you're going to have a strong economy, you've got to live within your prudent means. You don't overextend yourself on vanity projects, but you put a prudent budget, especially when times are really hard and difficult. And I think that this administration has done that and should be congratulated for doing that. So I will be supporting this budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Northcott. Councillor Panther, did you want to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've studied these reports as carefully as I can, and I cannot see any mention of any cuts to any services, be they essential and legal or non-legal whatsoever, which is sometimes that can be expected in such consideration. Considering all the strains that have been placed upon local government and this council in particular at the moment, I think this is a fantastic achievement, a fantastic budget, and I, for one, will support it and recommend everyone else does the same.
Thank you, Councillor Panther. Councillor Worden.
Thank you. Rather than trying to make it the Councillor Stubbs show, I'd just like to make a comment on something that he said a little earlier. He said, my turn. He said there is little provision for the elderly and disabled, and they've been neglected. I fall into both of those categories, and I feel incredibly supported by my Conservative-led council. So I don't think that's of any worth to comment on at all. What I do applaud is a small point in the budget of a repair fund, something that is very often overlooked these days, Mr. Mayor, and it's there, £38,000, actually for the benefit of citizens who need their repairs done. And that's something that should be applauded and not criticised. The rest of the budget, if I was marking a piece of work, it would be A++. It's absolutely tremendous. I support this budget wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I think on the budget, but I've decided to speak on it following what seems to be a fracas across the two sides. I will start by saying something. Personal attacks are going to achieve nothing apart from a descent to the gutter. And as they say, all that happens in that situation is that we both end up smelling of, you can fill in the rest. But I think the councillor tried to refer to me as smelling of excrement. I think perhaps you might want to brief her on standards. I think we need to accept that the national financial situation is incredibly dire. And we need to accept that budgets are incredibly tight. And I think we also need to accept that the future high street funds And the town deal has brought a significant amount of money into Newcastle. I think it's undeniable, and we would be unable to argue against that. It has brought a substantial amount of money. We may argue that that money previously used to sit within the central block allocations to the council that came each year. But regardless, we can't deny that that investment will make an impact. We've seen tonight the kind of impact that it will make. I will not be supporting the budget tonight for one specific reason. Whilst I applaud the developments that are going on within the town centre, I am exceptionally cautious about seeing this council undertake a large-scale amount of borrowing in order to finance those developments. I'm concerned because I don't think this is the right time to be undertaking such large borrowing. I'm concerned because I'm not entirely confident that at the end of the project, Capital and Centric will acquire those projects. I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised. But the reason that I can't support this budget is essentially we are making these big outlays. We are borrowing alongside funding, alongside selling treasured capital assets like Keele Golf Course in order to undertake this large-scale development in the town centre with, at this point, absolutely no guarantee that Capital and Centric are going to pick up the bill afterwards. And should they pick up the bill afterwards, we will have paid off the loans, and what we'll have to show with it is a hope that that rekindles the town centre, and I do hope it does, and a loss of an incredibly treasured biodiverse site in the borough, the only piece of green belt left between the western urban development and the villages starting with Keele. And that does concern me. But I will acknowledge that the funding that has come in is good for Newcastle. But I do not and am not willing to accept the risk levels that we would have to undertake to finance that borrowing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fear.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure you can build a field, let alone a field of dreams. And what we heard from the other side this evening is sort of, I mean, we were accused of producing this field of dreams. In fact, the dreams were on the other side. It was very high on rhetoric and actually had no content whatsoever. Let's think about the hard facts. The hard facts are that this budget proposes an underinflation poll tax rise of 1.99%. That was our electoral commitment. We have delivered upon it. We have not cut frontline services, where our council is moving more and more to look like our local dog, isn't it? Big teeth, big front end, small tail at the back. And this has got to be a good thing for the residents of this borough. We said we would invest in the town. And I was a little bit puzzled by the leader of the opposition, who seemed in our last item to in fact be in favour of town regeneration. Now he's not. Now strangely he's not. So I don't know how that fits together. And going back to rhetoric, I've been listening to this, and of course, opposition is easy because you can throw lots of things in the air, but you don't actually have to do the figures or anything like that. And once again, I'd like to associate myself with the praise for our financial team of officers who have produced a really good budget for us, in my opinion. But one favourite American politician of mine always used to say, "Where's the beef?" I'm listening with interest to the opposition. Where's the rabbit? Where is the rabbit out of the hat for the budget alternative? Where are the dreams going to be funded? How is this going to happen? It ain't going to happen because none of it is true. It is just a fantasy. So we've got fantasy over there, hard achievement over here. This is a budget to be proud of, and I shall certainly be voting for it.
Thank you, Councillor Grocott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a good speech for now to you, but I don't want to be attacked like Mr. Stubbs, unfortunately. So there we go. What I will say is that I do welcome, obviously, what the leader has said about the, obviously, cost of living crisis, and obviously the budget's there. But what I will say is it's not going far enough, unfortunately. looking at, and just my ward completely, I know that Councillor Barker over there, who runs the one-stop shop, gives food out quite readily. And this is people who are really struggling. Can't even feed themselves. Same with the Salvation Army, and myself and other people actually got funding from the National Lottery, 9,800. That's nearly all gone. And after that, what these people are going to do, I do not know. So I think all of us do need to look at this and think, where's this going to happen? It could be your ward next. So let's go forward and look at these things, because people are looking at us. We are their representatives, and we need to do that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. No, it's absolutely fine. Then Councillor Waring, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too was pleased to see that the Member of Finance and our hard-working finance team have been able to present a balanced budget again, primarily by making further improvements to systems and efficiency. And I think it's fair to say that history shows that the accountants here and the service heads have proved themselves well able to manage within the necessary constraints. So I think we've got every confidence that the budget they've presented is manageable. Not only that, but they've also managed to limit the increase to two-thirds of that allowable by government without penalty. And I think that we'll all be interested to see how many councils actually managed to do that. Furthermore, they've also managed to forecast an increase in the reserves that the council expects to hold at the end of the year, which was one of only 2 recommendations raised by the auditors in their recent report for last year. And that was an exceptionally good audit report. So I think, generally speaking, what we're looking at here is an excellent budget, and I commend it to everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fox-Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to respond to a couple of points that have been made tonight, because it's important. So, with regards to the unnecessary personal attacks on Councillor Stubbs, the Labour scrutiny lead on finance, it's my understanding that he's made 31 questions, clarifications, or recommendations through the scrutiny process, and not one were responded to or adopted. So it's a bit rich to say that he doesn't engage in the process. In terms of the Walleys Quarry Fund, and then further where's the Labour budget? Well, let me remind you that last year we presented recommendations of our own to the budget. We tried to support it with recommendations and amendments. Not one of those was adopted. In terms of not cutting services, I'll remind everyone in the room that under this administration, the headcount for the council has been reduced by 15%. And with regards to the assertions that Labour running Newcastle sees managed decline, I would remind you that Labour in Power saw huge town centre regeneration and growth that's still standing today. Yet, up to date, we've borrowed money and not get any of these promises delivered. Now, the consultation that underpinned the whole growth strategy for the town comprised of 57 chats in the town centre. 57 chats in the town centre that's driven the whole strategic growth. Now, as I've said, nothing's been delivered, but I do sincerely hope, I'll end on saying, I sincerely hope that my cautious scepticism is misplaced and that these projects do come to fruition and on budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fox-Stewart. Any more speakers, please? We'll start with you, Councillor Bentley-Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's getting late, so I'll be brief. I'm slightly puzzled by some of the comments from the other side, simply because when I look at Appendix 14, this is sort of page 125, what this clearly demonstrates on the basis of the residents' survey is that what we're actually doing in this budget is what the residents want. So therefore, it would seem logical to support a budget that residents want, with town centre regeneration, 77%, so forth, and in earlier questions, 70%, and so on. So, I mean, I think this is an excellent budget, and I think it's underpinned by what the residents want. There's only one point that worries me, Mr. Mayor, and that's on page 128, when there was only one respondent seemed to support the mayor. Thank you.
Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the leader's introduction, the leader talked about the 60 urban carbon capture green spaces that we have in the borough. On page 99 of the budget report, you will read that money will be allocated to the rollout of rural carbon capture green spaces in the Newcastle-under-Lyme borough. So all rural area councillor members will be asked to nominate borough council owned green spaces that can be protected and designated as carbon capture green spaces. Planting these sites with specially selected native trees and designating them as rural carbon capture areas shows our Green Borough Council delivering on its commitment to protecting the local environment for generations to come. From small acorns, mighty oaks grow, and over the coming years, more and more areas of borough-owned rural open space will also be planted with trees. As an eco-Tory, my hope is that residents will embrace what we're trying to do for now and for the future, and will join us by getting involved, maybe even planting 1 or 2 trees themselves. This is fantastic news and something that the councillors in the rural areas, such as Audley, Loggerheads, Madeley and Betley, I am sure will be very pleased to welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more speakers, please? Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just be brief. Just very excited to hear about the money for the pathways. In Audley, we've got basically a 2 kilometre long pathway from Bigland to Halmer End, and it gets very waterlogged. And for many years, this has been the bane of many residents' life. Muddy shoes, wet dogs, mud and everywhere. Last year, myself and Councillor Works, we got a little bit of money and got some soakaways put down one end, only 50 metres, tiny portion. But this money is going to go a long way to hitting all these nasty bits, where the bits where you need wellies to get through. And is these little things that make a big difference to people's lives. So I'll be very excited, I'm sure Councillor Works as well, to vote for this budget.
Thank you. Councillor Tagg for the right to reply.
Yep, thank you for all those positive comments. There was plenty to welcome this budget. I think on Councillor Stubbs, really, I think, you know, he was at I mentioned there were 2 scrutiny meetings. He was at one of those scrutiny committees and asked a number of questions. Each of those were answered by the finance officer and the portfolio holder. And, you know, watch that back and you'll see that a lot of your questions were answered. I think his statement was wrapped around some sort of bid for parliamentary seat. I wish him success in that. He seems to go around trying to get one. So good luck with that. Councillor Jones. Councillor Jones. No, it's just an opinion. Hope you get one. Right, so Councillor Jones, he talks about obviously the money that's coming from the government. Of course, that's really the Brexit dividend, isn't it? That's what it's redistributed money through a levelling up fund that we're now beginning to see the benefits of here in Newcastle. So I think it's a really good initiative was the levelling up fund, and we're going to make the benefit of that in Newcastle, as you've seen with the plans we put forward. I think also Councillor Jones needs to watch the members' briefing back, I think, as well, to answer a lot of the concerns and questions he's got, because that on the regeneration plans covered quite a lot of what he was saying there. So I think he should do that. And I think it's just a bit rich again for Labour members to talk about, you know, failed regeneration. We've maybe been talking about 30, 40 years ago with Castle Walk. Okay, that was delivered with investment from the government at that point, which was a Tory government, of course, making you know, business thrive at that point in the middle to late 80s, early 90s. But also we are now having to regenerate Rycroft because of the failed scheme under the last Labour administration, the HDD scheme. And then we're seeing scaffolding going up on the Sky building. But I think, you know, Councillor Stubbs, during his time as leader, was the brainchild of the Sky building. Let's pack loads of students into the town and let's not do due diligence, you know, on selling it to somebody, then sold it on the following day to a developer from Liverpool. We rehearsed these, and Councillor Brocky is aware of all this because we've had conversations about it. Is what a disaster that was. That's being corrected.
2 minutes, Councillor.
So thank you. So that's being corrected. We now will put the errors of the previous Labour administration right. And we're also saying, you know, really, you know, good council tax increase of 1.99%. 1.99%, which of course is well below inflation, as has been said. So I commend this budget. I look forward to everybody voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you, members. That concludes the debate on the proposal. I will now put the matter to a vote, which must be a named vote. The monitoring officer will now take and record the vote.
Mr. Mayor, could we ask for the retraction of the obscenity that Councillor Jones just said? We all heard it on this side. Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I've been silent for the last 10 minutes whilst the leader was speaking, and since then haven't said anything.
Finish speaking, Mr. Mayor.
What was my obscenity?
To repeat it, but are you going to repeat it, Councillor?
Should we move on to the taking of the vote? Yes. Thank you. Right. Okay.
Councillor Jones, would you sit down, please? Thank you.
Okay. I think yeah. It's a late night already, so let's try and make progress. Okay.
I have an apology for the random obscenity I just heard from the Conservative benches.
Okay. Can members please say, as I will call your names out, whether you vote for, against, or abstain? That's all I need from each member, please. Councillor Rupert Adcock.
For.
Councillor Lillian Barker. Councillor Robert Bedley Smith. Councillor Wendy Brocky. Councillor Jacqueline Brown. Councillor Amy Bryan.
For.
Councillor Nicholas Crisp. Councillor Andy Fear. Councillor Andrew Fox-Hewitt.
Against.
Councillor Richard Gorton. Councillor David Grocott.
Abstain.
Councillor Jill Heeson.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Holland.
For.
Councillor David Hutchinson.
For.
Councillor Trevor Johnson. Councillor Dave Jones.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Robert Moss.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Northcott.
For.
Councillor Barry Panther.
For.
Councillor Andrew Parker.
For.
Councillor Philip Rees. Councillor Leslie Richards. Councillor Craig Skelding.
For.
Councillor Mike Stubbs. Councillor Stephen Sweeney. Councillor John Tagg. Councillor Simon Tagg. Councillor Jill Waring. Councillor Paul Waring.
For.
Councillor Joan Wheeldon.
For.
Councillor Gary White.
For.
Councillor Simon White. Councillor Ian Wilkes.
For.
Councillor Jill Williams. Thank you. Councillor John Williams. Thank you. Councillor Ruth Wright. Thank you. The results of the vote. Sorry, quiet, please. Thank you. The results of the vote are 23 votes for, 5 votes against, and 7 abstentions. Thank you. So the vote is carried.
Thank you. Members, we now turn to the next substantive item of business on this evening's agenda, which is the pay policy statement. A copy of the report and associated papers can be found on pages 197 to 206 of your agenda. Councillor Simon Tagg, will you please now introduce the report, please?
I will do that, Mr. Mayor. And just firstly, thank you to all members from all parties for sticking with this meeting to where we are now and getting that business done. I think it moves the council forward. Thank you very much to everybody, no matter what the political persuasion is. I would like to move the pay policy statement. We have this every year. It's a standard thing we have to have. It details, obviously, the positions and the grades and the salaries of senior officers, which we have to do by law as part of the Local Government Act 2011. So I need to say no more at this stage. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to second the motion, please?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Members, we now move to the debate on this item. Can I ask you to indicate by raising a hand if you wish to speak? Councillor Stubbs.
I think we can move straight to the vote.
Thank you. Are we all happy with that? Okay then. All those in favour? Yeah, that's carried. Thank you. Members, we now turn to the next substantive item of business on this evening's agenda, which is the war and war widower pension. Is it disregard top up? That's what we have to say. A copy of the report and associated papers can be found on pages 207 to 210 of your agenda. Councillor Stephen Sweeney, will you please now introduce the report, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's only quickly this. When you're a war widow or widower, you get a pension. This is saying that if you're getting housing benefit or council tax support, that pension will be disregarded in the calculation of your income. All councils, I say the vast majority of councils do this anyway. We've done it for years. However, the auditors wanted to see something in black and white saying it's a policy we have. This is the black and white for the policy. It's nothing new. It's something we've done for years. It's basically just a tidying up process that we need to undertake. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tagg, would you like to second the motion, please?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, it's been a long day. Mr. Mayor.
Been a long night. Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Members, we now move to the debate on the item. Can I ask you to indicate by raising a hand if you wish to speak? Okay, let's move to the vote then. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Members, the next agenda item is item 11, members' questions. I have received 2 questions for the leader and cabinet members. These have been tabled this evening and will also show on the screens. Yeah. I will ask the leader or the relevant cabinet member to respond to the question as shown, after which I will ask the member who submitted the question if they have a supplementary question. Could I remind members that if they have a supplementary question, it must be a question and not a statement. And it must be concise, focused and relate to the subject matter of the initial question and answer. The first question is from Councillor Richard Gorton regarding waste bins and pavements. Councillor Tagg, before I carry on, did you want to say something?
Well, we might as well go into it now.
Do you want to? Okay, thank you. The first question is from Councillor Richard Gorton regarding waste bins on pavements and is on the screen. Councillor David Hutchinson, your response, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Gorton for his question. There has been a long-standing issue in some areas of the borough where wheelie bins are left out on the street and not returned to residents' properties between collection days. This can cause issues with obstruction to footways, forcing people with double buggies and wheelchair users to walk or travel on the road. This would also cause serious problems for any blind person walking their dog. Left out bins can also attract misuse of bins and fly tipping. The mobile multifunction team, or the MMF team as we know it, and the recycling and waste team at the Borough Council are now working sometimes with members to raise awareness with households regarding this issue. They are looking at problem streets and problem households and have put together a 3-stage process of education, warning, and ultimately a fixed penalty notice if wheelie bins are persistently left out. So stage 1 is education. This would be in the form of written literature and possibly a verbal or first written warning. The street or repeat offender households can be leafleted, possibly with a knock and drop by Borough Council staff. And as I said, possibly in conjunction with ward councillors. This would explain we provide a range of waste collection and recycling services to residents across the borough and encourage residents to separate their waste, store it correctly, place it on the street at certain collection points in time for our crews to collect. Then remove the bin from the street after collection. Stage 2 would be a warning. This would be a repeat of the education process, but this would also be a notice of intent of any repeat offence. Finally, stage 3 would be a fixed penalty notice of £60. Fixed penalty notices is one of the things the mobile multifunction team, or the MMF team, worked on when it was founded in 2023. They have reviewed issues such as dog fouling, fly tipping, and residents' duty of care regarding their waste management. All fixed penalty fees and charges will be decided by Cabinet, then reviewed, debated, amended where necessary, and endorsed by the Public Protection and Licensing Committee. And I'm pleased to say at the moment, education seems to be working. So far, we've issued no fixed penalty fees. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson. Councillor Gorton, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to the portfolio holder for clarifying the process. My only supplementary question really is, can you assure Council that resources will be available to underpin the action that is outlined this evening?
Thank you, Councillor Gorton. Councillor Hutchinson, your response, please.
Yes, resources will be provided to outline what I've just discussed. Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson. The final question is from Councillor Wendy Brocky regarding capital and Centric's business model, and this is on the screen. Councillor Stephen Sweeney, your response, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Response is, we have taken the capital and Centric proposals through a special all members briefing on the 5th of February. And proposals and suggestions for all elements of the regeneration plans for the town centre are taken to every Economy and Place Scrutiny Committee meeting for the scrutiny you request. The paper on the regeneration plans for the town centre has also been discussed at this evening's full council meeting. We shall continue to put the proposals for future scrutiny as we have done throughout the development of these plans and proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Councillor Brocky, do you have a supplementary question?
A brief one. Everybody knows what I think of capital and Centric. It's a question simply to say that we know that these things have been put through scrutiny and we've had a lot of information about capital and Centric, most of which is recommended themselves to us. Is it possible to have a meeting at some stage where all councillors involved in this kind of thing, particularly Ruth, Councillor Wright and myself, could actually get to meet them and share this vision? Because it's not all about negativeness, but we don't really feel that we've had enough information, and that's not information that we're getting about the virtues of capital and Centric. We really need, as Councillor Williams said earlier this evening, to look at the sites. I'd love to see what they're going to do to Wolverhampton. I can't wait. They're hoovering up a lot of stuff, and I just feel that we should approach it with caution, if not suspicion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brocky. Councillor Sweeney, your response, please.
Thank you, Councillor Brock. I think Capital and Centric are an excellent company. I think they're visionary. I think their ideas to the town centre are absolutely superb. The work we've seen around the area is brilliant. I've got no qualms about recommending them. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, agenda item 12 is our next item to receive petitions from members. I have not been made aware of any handed in this evening. Members, agenda item 13 and 14 relate to urgent business and confidential business. I have no urgent or confidential business that needs to be considered this evening. Members, just before we close, as this will be Martin Hamilton's last full council meeting, I would like to invite the group leaders to say a few words. Councillor Simon Tagg, would you like to say a few words on behalf of your group, please?
Thank you. Yes, a late hour in the evening. So the last meeting of Martin has been obviously a roller coaster ride, particularly sitting up there, I think, to control this meeting, along with, I'd like to thank Anthony as well for the role he's played, and the Mayor for what you've done as well during this year. But we're talking about Martin now. And I think Martin has been an excellent chief executive for us. And I think he's been a good friend to me as well over the period as well. And as always, I rely on him for the support he's given, along with the other officers.
And I think wish him all the best for the future. And I think I understand his reasons for leaving. Being in the centre of a very busy council with a lot going on. It's time to step back some time and reassess your future, and he's doing that. All the best to him to do that. But I just like to extend my personal thanks to Martin throughout this. We never always seen eye to eye. You never do with anybody, but I think we've been a good team. And I think plaudits go to you for a lot of this on this agenda tonight as well. And that's why I'm keen to support it as well, because I know the officers have worked so hard on it with you as Chief Exec. And lastly, I think the corporate review report which we had, which was so praising of this council, he not only plays political leadership, but also the officer leadership. And that's been put together by Martin, built the team, and he hands it over to whoever takes over. In the interim, it's going to be Simon Mack, of course. We know he'll do a brilliant job, but finally, the new appointment will be taking on a good organisation to take us even further forward. But all the best, Martin. And you're not leaving us yet, so not until the end of March, of course.
Councillor John Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking as an ordinary council without any special responsibilities, I'd like to thank on behalf of Councillor Williams and myself. Anytime we've asked you a question, you've answered, given his opinion, and helped us in quite a few ways, especially with the Arms House Trust, which we are trustees. Thank you for that, Martin. But I'd like to, good luck to the future. But I'd like just to say that you have been a ray of hope. And in this area where in this what team of the councils, of local councils have been cut and cut and cut over the years. And you've been a ray of hope, hopefully to keep democracy going in Newcastle. Thank you again. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it would be really prudent for me to speak because out of this chamber, I've known Martin for the longest. As you go through life, you meet some people who stand out amongst the rest. It could be their generosity, their wit, their mild manners. However, you meet people occasionally who encompass all of those attributes, and Martin really does in absolute spades. He's a real gentleman, kind, caring, and has always placed this borough and council first and foremost. We actually met many decades ago when you were working at Cardiff Council and were helping with the elections team during one election, and I was an agent, and I remember, you might not remember me, I had hair then, but I remember you. And that stuck with me. I was very excited when you came here to become the chief exec because you did leave a very indelible impression back then. As an opposition group, throughout your tenure, you have done the best to support us, and you really have. We've always felt that support. You've always worked with us when we've wanted to ensure our voice is heard, and we're grateful for that support. I think you only have to walk around this council building to see the impact that you've had. As I walk around and talk to officers, it feels like you brought a breath of fresh air to the way that council worked, and certainly the officer team worked. And that's something I'm exceptionally grateful for you. You made this a better council. We're poorer without you. And on behalf of my group, I wish you all the best for the future. You've left big shoes to fill, genuinely big shoes to fill. And I look forward to seeing what you get up to post the council. Thank you very much.
Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only a quickie. It is late. No, Martin. I wish you all the best for the future. I think you're a nice bloke. I think the management team, that's a compliment, Martin. The management team here all think the world of you. I can tell you that, which is something to your credit. Do you know my old saying about the go for beer test? Well, you pass our head downs, Martin. So I wish you absolute good luck in the future, wherever you end up. And I hope you have a good time. Thank you very much, Martin, for everything done for the Borough of Newcastle.
Martin, would you like to say a few words?
It's 10 to 11, but I know my team won't forgive me if I don't run through where I've got to with the 32 objectives and set myself when I came here. But no, seriously, thank you so much for your kind words this evening. I mean, it has been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be your chief executive. I made the commitment when I took up the job that I was going to move to the area and very much be part of civic life as much as anything in the role. And I've really tried to do that. And there's a couple of things I probably didn't really expect. One was roughly where Councillor Skelding's sitting at the moment. I got married just after COVID, which not everyone may know. And I also didn't necessarily expect that I would actually just think, yeah, this is the place where I want to be. So I'm staying in the area after I go. When you take a job as chief executive, you never actually know whether you're going to be any good at it or not, because it is kind of untested. And it's really gratifying to hear the kind words this evening. But it is a job with real highs and lows. There are days when you go home and you think, I really feel I made a difference today. And there are other times when you go home and you know you're not going to sleep because there's some looming issue that's on your mind. And leaving here, I guess the one thing that I would love to be doing is leaving here with Walleys Quarry sorted and put to bed rather than being work in progress. Most of you will have encountered me as a fairly calm soul. Nesta is probably the only person, apart from perhaps Simon, who has actually seen me throw my toys out of the pram with partners in sheer frustration about this. And without opening up the debate from earlier, I know the work that team has put in to try and to resolve this issue has been massive, and I know they share my frustration, they share your frustration, and aren't about to take their foot off the gas in that, in terms of trying to bring about the conclusion of the work that we've done there. But it would have been lovely to have left with that in the bag. I should have probably gone a year earlier. But the high for me, I mean, Simon mentioned the peer review, and that felt like a really strong vindication of a lot of work by both the member body and also the officer corps here. But for me, that was actually dwarfed recently by the staff survey, the most recent staff survey, where what we heard back from the colleagues we work with is that they felt trusted and valued and supported in their work. And actually, as head of pet service, you can't actually ask for anything more than that. And so that's a really nice note to go out on, because yeah, I'll have had some hand in that, but actually it's the colleagues that are sat around me here and the colleagues that make up the top team and that we work with day in, day out, who are absolutely dedicated to this council and who give their life and soul to it. If I've had any successes here, I've had them because of them and the efforts that they put in. So as I say, it has been a real pleasure and an honor to be the chief executive and the head of pet service here. I will miss a lot of people here. I'll miss the members. I'll miss the officers. I will miss just the camaraderie that is Newcastle-under-Lyme. So thank you very, very much. Jim.
Thank you, Martin. And may I also wish you all the very best for the future. That therefore concludes the business for this meeting, and I therefore declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Bye.